Was the Star of Bethlehem a real thing that someone could have seen in the sky? Or is it purely a symbol in the Christmas story? This one mysterious star has been debated by astronomers, historians, theologians, and skeptics for hundreds of years. What exactly was the Star of Bethlehem? And why does this mystery still matter today? The Star of Bethlehem only appears in one gospel, only in the Gospel of Matthew. Matthew says that a group of wise men, Magi, came from the east, and they followed a star to Judea. Who were the Magi? The word Magi does not mean kings. The original word Magi means astrologers or scholar priests from Persia or Babylon. So the Gospel of Matthew is actually describing something that fits with what we know about the ancient world. Educated men in the Persian region who studied astronomy and astrology. The sky was the calendar. The sky predicted planting seasons. The sky guided navigation. So why would Magi look toward Judea? At this time in history, Judea was not unknown. People across the ancient world were aware of prophecies connected to the Israelites and their coming king. There were political expectations of change. Rome had conquered Judea. People believed the world was shifting. A star that signaled a royal birth anywhere in that region would get attention. And the Magi may have had old Persian writings and old Babylonian traditions that mentioned the Jews. So the Magi, seeing a strange astronomical event toward the direction of Judea, would logically check it out. Matthew says the Magi saw his star at its rising. They traveled. They asked King Herod where the child was. Herod asked his own scholars in Jerusalem, who pointed to Bethlehem. And then Matthew says something extremely interesting. The star went before them and stood over where the child was. This is what puzzles astronomers the most. Stars do not hover. Stars do not stop. So we have three general categories of explanation. 1. Purely symbolic or theological. 2. Miraculous intervention outside of astronomy. 3. A real astronomical event, interpreted through ancient language. View 1. Symbolic or literary. Some historians say Matthew is using star imagery the same way ancients used omens in their writing. In ancient biographies, rulers were often born with cosmic signs. Alexander the Great had myths around his birth. Caesar Augustus had omens attached to his birth. So one theory says the star was not meant to be literal. It was a literary symbol, showing that Jesus' birth had cosmic meaning. If that is true, Matthew's audience would have understood the symbolism. This view says the story is not astronomy, it's theology in narrative form. But there is a very reasonable pushback to that. The text is fairly specific. It talks about the Magi traveling from another land. It references the star rising, moving, and stopping in some meaningful way. View 2. Miracle outside of nature. Some believers argue the Star of Bethlehem was a supernatural act. It was God doing something extraordinary. This view takes Matthew at face value. This explanation does not need math or star charts or theories. It says the star was a miracle. End of discussion. But even many believers today prefer to ask a deeper question. If God used a miracle, did he possibly use a natural event as the miracle? In other words, could God have used something in the sky that truly happened at the right place, at the right time, in a way the Magi would understand? And that leads us to the third major view. View 3. A real astronomical event that happened. Modern astronomy has the ability to reverse the sky. We can mathematically calculate celestial events backward thousands of years. We can check comets. We can check planetary conjunctions. We can check supernovas. We can check unusual eclipses. And when astronomers do this, some years stand out as candidates, especially around 7 BC and especially around 2 BC, because in those windows, some very rare events occurred. Let's review the top candidates. Candidate 1, a comet. Some people suggest the star was a comet. Ancient Chinese records do mention comets. Comets move across the sky. They can appear suddenly. However, in the ancient world, comets were normally considered bad signs, negative omens, signs of disaster. So most historians doubt the comet theory. Candidate 2, a nova or supernova. A nova is a star that suddenly brightens. A supernova is a star that explodes and becomes incredibly bright. These can appear as new stars in the sky. Did this happen around Jesus' birth? We have some ancient records of possible novas, but there is no solid evidence that a famously bright supernova appeared in that time window in the region that would match Matthew's text. So this theory is possible, but not strongly supported with ancient records. Candidate 3, a planetary alignment. This is the most popular scientific theory. In the year 7 BC, Jupiter and Saturn came into a triple conjunction in the constellation Pisces. A triple conjunction is when two planets appear near each other 3 times within months. This is extremely rare. In ancient astrology, Jupiter symbolized kingship. Saturn was connected to time and destiny. Pisces was associated by some ancient groups with the region of Judea. So to ancient Magi astrologers, this could have been interpreted as a signal. A new king is arriving in Judea, and they would have taken that seriously. Some astronomers today consider this the strongest candidate. But there's another event. In 2 BC, Jupiter and Venus came so close together that they almost merged into a single bright point. To the human eye, this would have looked like a bright new star, and it would have been impossible to ignore. Ancient astronomers knew Jupiter as the king planet. Venus was linked with motherhood, fertility, and femininity. So to the ancient mind, a heavenly sign of a king and a mother merging could absolutely have signaled a royal birth. This theory lines up well with those who placed Jesus' birth a few years later. But can a planetary event stop? Matthew says the star stood over the place. Can a real astronomical object do anything like this? Surprisingly, yes. From Earth, planets sometimes appear to stop and reverse direction. This is called retrograde motion. When Earth passes another planet in its orbit, the other planet appears, from our perspective, to slow down, pause, then reverse. So many astronomers argue it moved in the very specific ways planets move. The Magi, who tracked planets, would have read that motion as meaningful. And when Matthew says the star stood over Bethlehem, he may be describing the moment the planet paused in the sky at a certain point in the night. So which year fits better? This depends partly on what year we think Jesus was born. Most modern scholars believe Jesus was born between 7 BC and 4 BC. Herod the Great died in 4 BC, and the Magi visited while Herod was still alive. So 7 BC is very plausible for the triple conjunction. 2 BC is still possible, but would require adjusting certain dates of Herod's death. So many historians say, if there was a real astronomical basis, 7 BC or 6 BC is the stronger window. So what was the star? We cannot be absolutely certain, but we can say three things clearly. Number one, the concept of a star signaling the birth of a king fits ancient culture perfectly. Number two, the Magi were likely real Eastern scholar astrologers who would have known how to interpret unusual celestial events. Number three, some extremely rare planetary alignments really did happen around the likely years of Jesus' birth. So the story sits at the perfect intersection of theology, history, and astronomy. And that is why it still fascinates us. Why does this mystery matter today? Because the Star of Bethlehem is not just a question about science. It is a question about meaning. Is history random, or is history meaningful? When we look at the sky today, we see physics. We see chemical reactions. We see predictable orbits. But ancient people saw something else. They saw purpose. They saw messages. They saw a universe filled with intention. Maybe they were wrong. Or maybe they were seeing something we have forgotten how to see. Even today, humans look for meaning in the sky. We photograph eclipses. We watch meteor showers. We get emotional when we see Saturn's rings through a telescope. We stare at the Milky Way and feel something ancient. The Star of Bethlehem story invites us to step back and ask, is the universe just a machine, or is it a story? Why does this story pull us in so deeply? Because it is a story about searching. Wise men traveling from distant lands, looking for a child, trusting a sign. It is the ultimate story of seekers. The star represents something powerful, a clue, a hint, a whisper in the universe saying, there is something more. That is why this star has never faded from human imagination. Even if someone does not believe the religious claim, the Star of Bethlehem remains one of the most fascinating examples of how humans have tried to connect the heavens and the earth. It is a cross-cultural bridge. Astronomers study it. Skeptics debate it. Believers treasure it. Every December, people around the world see a bright star on top of a Christmas tree without realizing it. So what was the Star of Bethlehem? A literary symbol? A miraculous sign? A rare planetary event? We may never know with absolute certainty. So what do you think the Star of Bethlehem really was? Miracle, symbol, or astronomy? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed exploring the Star of Bethlehem, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and explore more of our travel history series. History is full of lost places waiting to be discovered, and we'll take you there.